There's new legislation out today which tightens up the rules on first aid within organisations. Here to tell us more about how it will affect our working lives is Alex Swift. Alex is the Regional Director of the St John Ambulance for the North West. Welcome.
Good evening.
So what changes are being made, Alex?
Well, firstly, I have to point out what hasn't changed, Andy, is that the law hasn't changed. Health and safety legislation hasn't been touched. But what has been changed is the application of the rules and the risk levels that companies might find that they're in. Prior to today, there were three risk levels: high, medium and low. Companies did a risk assessment and assessed themselves according to that. Now there's only two, high and low, and the companies that are in that medium band need to do
they're going to go up or they're going to go down,
they're going to go
presumably.
Up or down. So hitherto, a company that thought that only needed someone to fill the first aid kit with bandages and point people in its direction if they cut their finger actually might need something a bit more serious. They may need a fully trained first aider.
Why have the changes been made? I know that the government have liaised with St John Ambulance on this, but why has it been done? Why were the three bands no longer sufficient?
And, well, they've liaised with the whole first aid sector. Well, the Health and Safety Act first came in about 20 years ago, and there's been no revision since then. So in about 25 years or thereabouts, this is the first chance they've had to look at it. And they've taken examples of best practice. They've listened to first aiders, for example, who have said that currently they only do their courses every 3 years, and during that time they might never put their training into practice. So
one hopes they would never have to, but equally you've got to stay up to speed.
That's right. So they suffer skill fade, and they're concerned that if they were to put their training into practice, they might have forgotten what they'd learned. So
OK. Clearly, it would seem to me, if you are a medium-grade business and you go down to low, that you probably don't have to make too many changes.
That's correct.
The key thing is, if you're a medium-grade business and you move up to high,
yes,
what changes are those businesses going to have to make? Train more first aiders? How's it going to work?
The first aiders they have may need more training, that's correct. There's a new level of first aid trainer called the emergency first aid trainer. They can deliver immediate first aid if someone keels over. But what the companies will have to do is look at their circumstances, look at the numbers of staff that they have, look at the risks inherent in the business. Obviously, an office will be more benign than a big industrial concern.
So it's not business numbers, it's the environment in which the workforce find themselves.
It's the condition of the workforce. If, for example, they have an elderly workforce, or they have a number of disabled people who perhaps might be working in remote locations and so on, they really have to go into some detail now and assess the risk in their business, and then determine the number of first aiders and the level of first aid skill that they need in their workplace.
And it is legislation. This is not an optional thing, is it? You have to do this, and there are consequences if you don't, aren't there?
Yes, in the main, you have to provide the first aiders. What is optional, although businesses will be recommended, best practice will be to carry out refresher training. As I said, there can be a gap of 3 years between doing one course and another. First aiders can suffer skill fade. They'll be strongly recommended, which is a pretty strong hint that they should really do, to carry out first aid refreshers every year.
And businesses who are thinking, well, it's a tough financial time, I haven't got time to spare my staff to go off on first aid will just not bother. They're going to get fined, or the full force of the law will be brought to bear?
Sadly, if someone is injured and it then transpires that their injuries were made worse because there wasn't someone to attend to them, because that's the issue, really. First aid promotes recovery. It stops the casualty getting worse and so on and so forth. They call an ambulance much more quickly. If it was determined that the business was at fault for not having, in spite of the recommendations, the appropriate cover, they could find themselves being subject to a hefty fine, as indeed some companies have recently.
Employees watching who, it's from today, so one assumes that the build-up has already happened. I mean, let's hang a bit, from today, do we have to reassess, or has the reassessment happened up to this point?
No, it hasn't, because the Health and Safety Executive only issued the guidelines today.
Right, so from this point, the Health and Safety, the businesses have to reassess their position.
Correct.
And if employees think it's not happening, to whom do they go?
Well, they go to their management, firstly, and make their concerns known.
But if the management are less than willing to take part and they're feeling at risk, is there... I mean, clearly they don't want to compromise their position at work, but is there somewhere they can go quietly and just say, you might want to take a look at business X or Y?
Well, if they have a trade union body or they have a staff association, then I'm sure that they could bring pressure. Or indeed, the Health and Safety Executive.
Very quickly, because time is pressing, but it's not something that we should take lightly. How many deaths in the workplace have there been?
Sadly, there were 180 last year. 6 million hours lost. So it's quite a
serious
big
business.
It is really.
It's a serious business. So businesses will have been told by their trade bodies and the like that this should happen.
This is happening.
If you are an employee and it doesn't seem to be happening. Talk to your boss and make sure it does. Alex, very nice to have seen you. Thanks for the information.